Hello. Today I thought I would share my favorite fall eyeshadow palettes. I chose mostly larger palettes. There's a few smaller ones, but on the most part I chose larger. I'm gonna start with palettes that I use still, but they are a little on the older, I guess, side. So I'm gonna just jump right in because I could talk a lot about eyeshadow. Eyeshadow is my favorite part of doing makeup. I also did this eye look here using one of my favorite fall eyeshadow palettes. Now, it's not necessarily just fall, but to me, this is an eyeshadow palette I feel was so perfectly fall that I had to choose that one. All right, so I'm gonna start off with the Essence Spice Up Your Life eyeshadow palette. I'm pretty sure this is no longer available, but this is what it looks like. I just love that there's greens, there's yellows, there's browns, there's red shades. Every time it is starting to feel like fall, this is one of the eyeshadow palettes that I feel like grabbing. And despite it is older, I still think of this palette the minute fall starts. So this one is one I really love. Next is the BH Cosmetics Weekend Vibes Avocado Toast Shadow Palette. Just give me a minute. Okay, my dog is finished barking now at the imaginary things he thinks is a threat, basically. But back to what we were talking about, which was the Avocado Toast palette. This is what it looks like. It has a lot of greens, which I love. I love green. And it also has some, I would say this is more of a orange shade. This is a nice deep dark red. There's also yellow, which I love. And then just some neutrals that you can mix in and make many different looks with. So this one I think is one of the most amazing palettes. I don't know if it's still available anymore, but it is, if you have it, it is a beautiful palette. Next, I chose the ColourPop It's a Mood palette. The moment that I seen this come out, I was just like, oh, that is such a beautiful fall palette. And I couldn't help but love this palette. It has everything I could want and then some. Like, I have deep dark purples, I have reds, I have oranges. The greens, oh, so beautiful. And then there's neutrals as well. So you could easily play with multiple different looks. I basically went down each column making looks, which I do enjoy sometimes when I just want something and I don't want to think about what will go with what. I just grab something like this, and I like that it's kind of organized for me. Some of the pressed glitters I could do without, but I did get them to work in looks. But I think this palette is stunning, and the moment I saw this palette, I knew it had to be mine and had to be something I played with in the fall. Although I did use it in winter as well. Last but not least is the Beauty Bay Wilderness 20 color palette. When this first came out, I wanted to grab this palette instantly, but it sold out so quickly, and I was so sad, and I was like, oh, no. And then they did restock it. I absolutely had to grab this palette. This is what the color story looks like. I love the different tones in this. I also think the addition of blue was just unexpected, but I love that it's there. The quality, I will always love Beauty Bay's eyeshadow palettes. I think I've had one shade out of all the palettes I have that I didn't love. And I love that this has reds, oranges. I wish there was a few more oranges, but they do have other eyeshadow palettes with lots of oranges. So for a 20 pan, I like that they included a few. The grungy greens, oh, they're beautiful. These foresty greens, I love them. There's also a few that are like this one here is more of a duochrome. I kind of feel like this one is unique too. But I love this palette. This is the palette that I am wearing today and created this eye look with. I used this shade, 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 and this just to blend, and this in the inner corner and in the middle there. I love this palette, and I am so happy that I ended up grabbing it and getting a hold of it. It's a palette that I grab the moment fall starts. This is also another one that I start thinking of. So this look here I've had in my head for a while, and I was like, okay, it can't keep living in my head forever, so we're gonna make it. If it turns out, great. If it doesn't, at least I tried. I actually think it is pretty cool looking, so I'm happy that I decided to actually do that. But this palette is amazing. They did bring out like an earth palette, I think it's called, which has some of these shades. They have a few that you would have the blues in possibly, but yeah, this palette has everything. I would say the only thing missing for me is yellow, but that's okay. All right, on to the next ones. So I also have picked out a few of the ColourPop 9-pan palettes. I'm gonna start with one that the moment I saw this, I just had to grab it, and that is the Little Ray of Sunshine from ColourPop. I love sunflowers. I think they are one of the most beautiful flowers. And when I saw this all matte palette, I was just like, oh, it's so perfect. So I did grab this. I don't usually like all matte palettes because I really do love a shimmer, but I just love the color story, and I don't think that one's available anymore, but I love that there's so many different colors of mattes that you can really make a few different looks with just that palette. And I kind of think that's fun. I also think if I wanted to pull in some of my single shadows, shimmer shadows, or a glitter, I could. So that one had to be mentioned. I wasn't going to share these, but I was like, but they're so pretty. Next is the ColourPop Honey palette. For me, this is the perfect yellow, all yellow palette. I grab this and do a yellow look probably every single fall since getting this palette. I will say there is a glitter that I don't love the glitter, but it is glittery. I don't know. It is a pretty glitter. It is, if you so desire to use it. I've also tried and used these with just some clear nail polish. I thought that was fun. But I think this is the perfect yellow palette to me, and I love that they have shimmers and mattes that you can play with. That one is kind of what the Beauty Bay doesn't have in terms of yellow for the Wilderness palette that this brings in, and I really enjoy that. I will say I think this is less grungy than the Wilderness. So if you wanted grungy, the Wilderness. For me, you can get this to be grungy as well. I have done so, but it's, to me, the perfect yellow palette. All right, on to orange. So for orange, I picked the ColourPop Big Poppy palette. This is also an all matte palette, and when I seen that ColourPop was bringing out another one of these all matte palettes, I did grab this. I do feel like this one's harder to get multiple looks from compared to the Lil Ray of Sunshine palette, but I usually grab every shade and make a look, and I love that it goes very, very dark. So I do enjoy that. And this is probably, I only have probably 2 all matte eyeshadow palettes, those being the only 2. And I do reach for that one quite frequently, especially in the fall when I personally would wear orange all year round, but I do enjoy wearing a nice orange eye look in the fall. It just feels perfect. Now I'm gonna talk about the Orange You Glad palette from ColourPop. This, I would say, is brighter orange. which I kind of wish it went a little deeper, but once you start working with some of these shades, it does get there. If I can't get the depth I want, I just grab the Big Poppy palette and combine the two. I don't care much for the glitter shade in this one, but it is pretty. It's just not my favorite. And I do wish there was more shimmers. For me, the more shimmers there is, the happier I am. On to green. So for an all green palette, I chose the ColourPop in the Limelight. It is mostly green shades with some neutrals. I love this and this shade here for the shimmers. I like that you can make this nice and dark, but you can also make it a neutral look. So if you're looking for that, I don't know if this is still available, but I love that a few of the looks I've made looked really grungy, and I just love green, and the grungier the better. All right, on to ones I've used. Now for palettes, this is my first ever Too Faced palette. I have seen them come out year after year and wanted them, but they sold out every single time. This is the Pumpkin Spice Second Slice palette. I think I did about 6 looks with this. I think that the added purple and pink really make it more interesting, but I enjoy that there's a lot of neutrals, but there's some deeper like orange shades, there's browns. They added a nice reddish color here. They also have a black shimmer shade there. Also like a matte with a shimmer type of idea, but I think that shade is really beautiful. Overall, I would say this shade here is the only one I didn't care for. And this one here, the purple, I felt I had to use a dampened brush to get it to really show and stay that way. I don't mind having to do that. Some shades, even shimmer shades, I've had to do that. The other shimmers I actually enjoyed in this palette, except this I felt was like a topper. I don't really care for those. I don't know if you really see it because it's so shiny, but yeah, I did enjoy this, and I did a lot of different looks with it. It was a nice palette. So I chose the Violet Voss by Rust U 20 color eyeshadow and pressed pigment palette. I don't think this is available anymore. I picked it up last year. I love this palette. I love that there's some grungy yellow shades. There's some rusty orange shades. There's some, I would say, reddy purples, and then some browns. I feel like this has a lot of depth, which I enjoy. It also has a lot of shades where you can use them to blend out other shades. So I actually enjoyed this palette, and I think I did about 5 or 6 looks with it in the fall, and I think this is just a beautiful fall palette. It is kind of expected, maybe in a way, but for me, this is exactly what I look for sometimes, is just, I want those reds, browns, yellows, you know, ochre, kind of rusty orange shades when I'm thinking of fall. So this to me is the perfect fall palette, and the quality was quite good for the eyeshadow palettes themselves. All right, on to one that I am still obsessed with. The Tarte Man-Eater After Dark eyeshadow palette. When I first seen this, I wasn't sure if it would come to Canada so that I would be able to purchase it, and then they put it on the Tarte website and we were allowed to purchase that from their website. This palette I used obsessively in the fall. It is perfect to me. Now, some of the shades I did struggle to have them show up. Nocturnal and Nightfall, these here, I felt didn't show up that easily. There was a few of the shimmer shades that I had to use glitter glue to get the best performance, but as I've said, I do not mind doing that. Some of the satin shades, they would just fade throughout the day, and I kind of wanted them to be seen. So that would be why I used either a dampen brush or glitter glue to get them to the depth that I wanted. The mattes I had no problem really with at all, any of them. I felt they all worked quite well. The green I also found it would fade quickly, but I love that there's green, there's yellows, there's oranges, there's even purples and plums. I think this is perfect for fall and right into the holiday Christmas season, which I think is awesome. I also did 17 different looks with this palette, so it has versatility. Some of them were deep and dark. Some of them were, you know, more one and done kind of looks. I did even an all matte look with this palette, going from yellow to orange to red, kind of have that fall leaves feel to it. This palette here, to me, was and it still is, to me, worth having. I think this palette is probably one of the perfect fall palettes. It's also, I think, easier to find, maybe easier in the setup to figure out what looks to do, because you can kind of follow the rows if you wanted to. I also just think they really did come out with something different for Tarte, and I was impressed. The moment I seen this palette, I was like, yes, that palette is perfect for fall. I still think it is. I have not tried the new palette they brought out this year, but I do plan to. I think that palette, for some reason, feels more holiday season, so I think I may use that then. All right, on to a few last palettes. Okay, so this is actually one of those unexpected picks that I chose. I chose the ColourPop Gettin' Fresh palette. This, I created a few, I would say 6 different looks with. And what I wanted to do was just go down each of these and see what kind of look I could create. And quite a few of the looks I created were perfect for fall. So I could see this, despite its very, I would say summer, I feel like this is also one of those palettes that could go from summer to fall really easily, and you could just grab some of these shades and create a really beautiful fall look. There's also a few that are dual chrome. I think this and this, possibly this one too. But if you wanted an all green look, you could. If you wanted like a green mixed with some neutrals, I think that would be cool. I also think you could make a lot of different orangey shades and grab those, or neutrals. But this palette I decided would be like one of those unexpected fall palette choices, because every time I think of fall, I kind of think, well, it's not quite fall, but it's not summer. What is it? This palette kind of was one of those ones where I was like, ooh, that could be perfect for fall, but I get that fall vibe without being too quick to use something for fall. So that's why this palette is one that I chose. Slightly unusual, but I had to. This is the ColourPop Disney Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas palette. I used this Halloween, and I love how this palette like is perfect for Halloween in my opinion. There's really bright orange, bright pinks, purples. There's also deep dark. You have your grays, your blackish purple shade here. This one, Frog's Breath, is like a dual chrome. This zero shade is so beautiful. There's also brown neutral shades and a gold. This palette to me is perfect for Halloween, and I am so glad that I grabbed this when I did see it on their website in the winter, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be so perfect, and I put it on my to use list for Halloween, and it did not disappoint me. I am so glad that I have this palette. I don't think, for me, it doesn't feel like a Christmas palette per se, so that would be why I have put it in with fall, Halloween. That's what I feel this palette is for, at least the way I wear colors. But yeah, that palette, I had to. Next is the NYX Ultimate Paradise Shadow Palette in Paradise. Oh, it's Paradise Shock. What? Okay. This is a palette I didn't really think was fall until I really started to play with this palette. There's greens, there's yellows, there is a duochrome kind of goldy flip shade there. There is also reds and oranges that you can just kind of grab. You can also just do a neutral, you know, eye look and go about your day. I kind of enjoyed having so many different things that I could grab and play with. I did quite a few looks with this palette, and I really love the quality was perfect. The one shimmer here, if we can ever open it again, this one here, I found I needed glitter glue for its best performance. This one here, I just wanted it to show up more, so I did use glitter glue with it, but you can use it without it. I think this palette is perfect. I love this palette, and I'm really glad I picked it up. Now I have more ColourPop. Big surprise. I'm not surprised. You might be, I'm not. The ColourPop Disney Star Wars The Mandalorian palette. The moment they brought this out, I wanted to grab this palette. To me, it's grungy, it's got browns, neutrals, it's grays. This here, Clan of Two, is a duochrome, and it is so beautiful. This is such a beautiful mustardy yellow. I had to have this palette. I think it is perfect for fall. The looks I've created with this, just perfect, so grungy. I love it. I had to mention that one. For me, if it has yellow, there's a chance I'm probably buying it. I would say yellow, orange, green, or grungy shades. Next is the ColourPop Star Wars The Mandalorian The Child palette. I love Star Wars. I don't necessarily understand some of what's going on with the storyline now, but I do remember watching a lot of Star Wars as a kid. This palette has neutrals, it also has greens, and for me this is, I love the greens. I think this is perfect for fall. You could use this anytime too. I like that you can have a neutral look, you can have a green look, you can combine them. But it's cute. It's a great color story. I also feel like they really did get the characters' colors so nicely. But yeah, I had to add this palette in here. All right, on to the very last palette. Okay, so this is the last fall palette. This is the ColourPop Bare Necessities Pressed Powder Palette. This is it's a neutral palette. But I love this palette for fall. My reason is I love that if I use some of these shades here, I can have more of a neutral look on the eyes, and the lips can be the thing that stands out. And I also like, if you wanted to use some of the purpley mauve shades, you could. This shade and I do not like each other. I've tried, but I don't like it. I'm sorry. I think as a matte, it just blends away. And because of the added shimmer, there's really just, it just dusts away. So it's just not a shade I will ever love. If I take that shade away, I still can create a nice look without it. So I'm not that annoyed about that. For me, I love the orangey neutrals, and that I can really go nice and dark with this. Every shade I've tried, I pretty much had no problems with, except obviously this one. Revel, and I think Cufflinks are more of like a satin shimmer, and I did feel they were harder pressed, but they did show up and looked really beautiful. I think a few of them, like Designer Duds, I did use a glitter glue with, just to get the finish I wanted. I wanted it to stand out more than what it was on its own. But I feel like this palette is a perfect neutral fall palette. You could also use this anytime, of course, and that's true with every single eyeshadow palette I've mentioned. But for me, I keep grabbing this one in the fall, so I was just like, well, that's the third year you've done that, so shouldn't you count that one too? I was like, yeah, you're kind of right. All right, fine, you win. Yeah, that's what really goes on in my head. But yeah, this palette I think is a perfect neutral. I think it's more on the warm neutral side, but I think, yeah, this one for me would be my eyeshadow palette that I would pick for a neutral, warm neutral fall palette would be Bare Necessities from ColourPop. Okay, so that concludes my fall eyeshadow picks for 2023, and honestly these I've been using for a lot longer than that, but that's what I'm picking. I picked ones where I've used every single shade in the palettes. Anything where I haven't used every shade, I won't include in a favorites video, just because what if that one shade ruins everything? So for me, unless I've used all of the shades, I don't include it as a favorite yet. Or if I haven't used the actual palette. Like, I have palettes that I think, oh yeah, that's perfect for fall, but I haven't used it or used all of the shades, so I don't include those. Just so that you know how good the palette is or not. All right, this is the end of my fall favorite palettes video. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sorry if I talk a lot. When I love something, I can talk a lot. And then other times, I don't say anything. So that's how I am. Yep. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and please like, comment what your favorite fall eyeshadow palette of all time is. For me, I'm gonna have to still say Beauty Bay Wilderness palette will be my all-time favorite fall palette. So let me know what yours is, and subscribe if you would like to, and I hope you have a great day. Okay, bye.